Hey there, everyone. Robert Ferringo of Doc Sports here with my main man, Raphael Esparza. Go over to docsports.com and check us out. We just happen to be the best team of professional sports handicappers in the industry. That's not really braggadocio or my opinion. It's kind of a statement of fact. Click the link above or below and take advantage of the free $60 that we are giving you. You are welcome. You can use that $60 free to go towards any handicapper in any sport for any package that you want. A week's worth of football picks at Doc Sports usually runs about $99, right? So we are giving you $60 free towards a free weekend's worth of picks from someone like Raphael Esparza. I get it wrong every time. He's over here. Raphael Esparza right here. All right, Raphael, NFL Week 2. For my money, this is the most difficult week of the NFL season. Maybe you could say Week 18 used to be Week 17. That's always a free-for-all. But Week 2, there's that natural overreaction that everyone's going to have to Week 1, right? And I think we're seeing that with some of the spreads this week. We have 5 spreads that are in the double digits. What do you make of this early season action?
It doesn't matter. The Detroit Lions are favored this week. Whatever you just said right now, the Detroit Lions are favored this week. We've seen some big spreads. We've seen some quarterbacks go down. The Cowboys season's over. Some other teams' seasons are over right now. But yeah, some big numbers. Week 1 was a little head scratcher. Some surprising teams. New York Giants were very impressive. The Atlanta Falcons in your backyard were very impressive, but even though they got the 1-point loss. So Week 2, you said Week 2 is the hardest one. I still believe the last week of the NFL is always the hardest. Maybe even Week 1 now, because you see teams who didn't play any preseason game starters look really, really bad last week, a.k.a. again, the Green Bay Packers. So I can see maybe Week 1 being maybe the toughest one. But Week 2 should be some eyeballs opening and see how people bounce back after their bad loss.
I love Week 1 in the NFL. That's probably my favorite week. You give me 5 months to break these games down, and I'm going to make money, and that's what we did last week. Now, you touched on a team, the Atlanta Falcons. They suffered a 1-point last-second loss to your New Orleans Saints. I know you're living down there in the Bayou, and the Saints are welcoming Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Bucs to town. New Orleans posted as the home underdog here, Raphael. I'll let you take it from there.
Yeah, I did a show right after the Saints game last week, and we were talking about, hey, at that time the Saints were +4. I'm like, okay, you guys are cashing your tickets on the Atlanta Falcons or whatever the morning games. I would highly advise you to maybe grab this +4 because there's no way the Saints are going to be +4. And during the show, it went down to 3.5. Now it's 2.5. So if you got the +4, you have a nice, almost kind of a middle spot in it because I do believe it might come down even more. I think Saints money will come in. Would not be shocked if we see 2 by the time it's kickoff. I mean, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers injury list is my operation list that I've had on my body. So it's long. So I want nothing to do with Tampa, Tom. I want nothing to do with Bucs because what happened last year? The Saints owned them. Are we going to see a high-scoring game? Probably not. I'm still not 100% sold on the Saints offense. I mean, Jameis has got hurt last week. His back's all messed up. Kamara has not practiced all week. Tampa Bay's got injuries. So I don't see a lot of scoring in this one. But if I'm looking for a defensive game that's going to probably win the game, I'm going to take the Saints defense. I know Buccaneers defense looked really good, but they played against the Cowboys that couldn't catch anything. They couldn't even catch coronavirus if they were in China right now. So I want nothing to do with that. I think the Saints win on defense. I like the Saints this week.
It's going to be the same thing with the Saints every single week. I love everything about them this week. I love them at home. That's one of the toughest places in the NFL to play. I love their defense. I love their skill position talent, man. Those receivers they have so many weapons on offense. It is ridiculous, right? But it all comes back to Jameis Winston. That guy is just an absolute loser, and I just hate having to trust him with my money. Now, credit where credit's due. He played lights out in the fourth quarter, leading that comeback in Atlanta. He was 10 for 11, threw the 2 touchdown passes. We can make an argument about, how much of that was Jameis and how much of that was Michael Thomas and Jarvis Landry just being awesome. Really, that's the only thing that held me back from making this a bigger play on the Saints. Tampa Bay does have the banged up team, offensive line, wide receiver room, whatever. And I'm with you. I'm not as impressed with that win over Dallas as everybody else seems to be. Dallas is a bad football team. Okay. They are not good at all. I was heavy on the under on their 10.5 win under for season win totals this year. And I mean, I'm already spending the money that I have on those tickets. Raphael, I have to ask you one thing about this game, though. New Orleans has beaten them 4 straight times in the regular season. What is your kind of personal opinion about the streak, betting the streak when you're betting in all sports? Are you a guy who's like, I'm just going to bet on this streak until it loses, or a guy who says, I'm staying away until the streak is snapped? Like, does that enter your thought process at all that, hey, New Orleans is beating them 4 straight times? Are they really going to beat them 5 straight regular season times?
I'm more of like kind of a streak on that aspect on baseball. I mean, if someone's winning 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 games, you just keep on riding them. In football, if Tampa Bay didn't have that long list of injuries, then I'd be like, maybe the streak's going to end. You still got the greatest quarterback to ever play the game, but who's he going to throw to? I mean, he doesn't. Gronk ain't there. The right receiver room is about as empty as my downstairs living room right now. So the injuries scare me more than betting against the streak or going against the streak. It's that long list of injuries.
All right, the next game on our list here is the Miami Dolphins heading to Baltimore as 3.5-point underdogs. Both teams coming off impressive, almost dominating, I would say, wins in week 1. Miami was able to take down rival New England. Baltimore went up and they had a scrimmage against the Jets. The Jets are colossal losers. But Baltimore took care of business. They didn't let the Jets hang around in that game. They put their foot on their throat and dominated them. These are 2 up-and-coming teams, 2 teams that a lot of buzz on them making the playoffs, making some noise in the AFC this year. Raphael, when you look at Miami and Baltimore, what jumps out at you?
Fin up, because at 0.5 point. If it was a 3 or less, then I would maybe look at the Baltimore Ravens and stuff like that. That 0.5 point would be huge. It would not shock me if a field goal wins this game. That's why I like Miami. I was really Tua played a really smart game. I mean, he only threw for 270, but you know what impressed me? 0 interception. So he's just smart game, and they couldn't even really run the ball. I think their leading rusher only had like 25 yards. So it's not like they were just handing the ball off and they won the game. It was a really balanced game. A lot of screen passes, slants. Be smart with the ball. Let the defense control the type of game. If that's the type of game, it's going to be the same type of game when the Ravens won their first Super Bowl. Is how Miami is going to win. Playing the same kind of game. I like Miami. I think their defense is better, and I'm going to take that 0.5 point. So give me the plus 3.5. Fin up, baby.
All right, I'm going to disagree. First, Tua, the spotlight is on him this year because everybody looks at that Dolphins team kind of like how I look at the Saints team. They got everything but, the question mark is the quarterback. But got to say, you're right. He played well and was efficient last week against a Bill Belichick defense. The Patriots stink on offense. They can still play some D, man. If Tua has another good, successful, efficient game, going up against the Patriots, going up against the Ravens defense. If he plays well again, they could be building some momentum and some confidence for him and in him. Now, Raphael, I want to go back to this number for a second. You used to be a sportsbook manager on the Las Vegas Strip, one of the most successful sportsbooks in Las Vegas. I want you to put your odds maker sportsbook manager hat on for me for a second. I want to tap into some of your experience and expertise. When I looked at this number, for me, it was a stay away early in the week. I like the Dolphins. I like the Ravens this year. I want to bet on both teams, not against them. But the thing that brought me back to it was that 0.5 point that you mentioned. It almost seemed to me like the sports books are trying to bait action by making that 3.5, not 3. It's almost like they're begging you to take Miami. Do sports books kind of manipulate lines in that way? Do they put that much thought into it? Just talk to me about the 3 versus the 3.5 in this game.
I think back in the day before every state and all these other companies are in town, this would have been a solid 3 minus 120 Baltimore. Now it's minus 3.5 because we're going to automatically get Baltimore money. Everyone knows. I think Miami's 1-9 against the spread in the last 10 meetings. Everyone pretty much knows Baltimore. Everyone knows about Jackson better than probably Tua in people's eyes. So we knew Baltimore money was going to be in there. So let's add that 0.5 point instead of that minus 120, because we know we're still going to get money bet on that. It's not going to move to 3. It's either going to stay 3.5, or so much money is coming into Baltimore, we're going to move it to 4. If you're waiting for a 3, you're going to be waiting for a very, very, very long time. It ain't happening. So that's why that's a 3.5. Again, maybe 5 years ago, that's a solid -3, minus 120.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's why he's one of the best in the business. And that's why we are very lucky to have him at Doc Sports to tap into that wealth of information and experience from Raphael Esparza. Now, one thing I completely and 100% disagree with you on, though, Raphael, is that don't bet Miami if you think that they're going to cover the spread in this game. You bet them if you think they can win.
Up.
If you think they can go to Baltimore and win, take the points. 100%. But the spread does not come into play as much as people think in NFL betting. All right, this is one game where the spread really might come into play because it's huge. It's one of those games with a big, giant, double-digit spread. Tennessee Titans going to Buffalo, Monday Night Football. They are the number one. Just wrap your mind around this if you can. The number 1 seed in the AFC last year. The Tennessee Titans, a team that's made the playoffs, I think 3 straight years, was in the AFC Championship game a couple of years ago. Tennessee Titans are 10-point underdogs, not because of injury. Their quarterback isn't dead. Coronavirus or HIV have not ravaged the locker room, right? They're going to Buffalo as 10-point underdogs. Make sense of this to me, Raphael. Make it make sense.
Because this one opened up in the summer 7.5. And we couldn't beg for Tennessee money. Couldn't beg for it. Everyone, the Bills Mafia, again, probably... I would think if the Bills Mafia continues to produce good games and good teams get hurt, they can maybe surpass the Green Bay Packers, which is probably one of the biggest bet NFL team. Right now, I always say it's always the Green Bay Packers. For some reason, they're always around the books. You see cheeseheads, they always bet big. But Buffalo's creeping up. I mean, Bills Mafia travels, Bills Mafia bets. That's why this number is this high. Not because we open it up at 10. Again, we opened up around 7.5. I think I saw maybe a couple of handfuls of 7s during the summer when it's first buttoned up. This one's 10 because of money, not because of athletes, not because of the better quarterback, not because of Tennessee was the leading AFC. This is all about the green that's coming out of Bills Mafia. Does this come down? I think it does. I think some Tennessee money coming in, not because Tannehill is going to outshine on the road, but I think it is a little bit high. I could see Buffalo winning by a touchdown, but if it does come down, I would not shock me if it comes out to 9.5.
The Titans have been a fantastic underdog under head coach Mike Vrabel. This is their situation. They always show up when you kind of don't expect them to. Last year when they went on the road as big underdog and they beat the Rams. Last year when they hosted Buffalo as a home underdog and they beat the Bills. But this Tennessee team feels a lot different to me. They don't have the weapons that they have. They just don't have the same attitude about them, blowing that game to the Giants. Now, this is a team that, again, does play kind of up or down to its level of competition, but I think Tennessee's in for kind of a long year. When I look at that Buffalo side, again, they've played in Tennessee each of the last 2 seasons. They've lost to the Titans each of the last 2 seasons. I think there's a little pent-up aggression there. And, this game's at 7:30 on Monday night. Okay, this is the first game. You got to tune into this game because that stadium, that whole of upstate New York, it's going to be bedlam. Absolute bedlam. The tables will be broken. Everyone in that whole region is going to be hammered drunk by 7:30. We saw what it was like in Seattle on Monday Night Football and what a difference that made in that game against Denver. The attitude and electricity in Orchard Park on Monday, I promise you, is going to be even greater. Now, Raphael, I do want to ask you something about the Bills. The hype train has been running full steam ahead all off season. They looked phenomenal in week 1. We got a monster line here. At what point does all the value become betting against the Buffalo Bills hype? Or have we already reached it?
I don't think we have. Remember when New England was just dominating and every time New England won, the books got crushed? This could be something with Buffalo. I think they're going to be, again, one of the heavy bet teams. We're going to see a whole bunch of this is probably the biggest teaser team on the bet board right now. Maybe Green Bay just because how they owned the Chicago Bears. Since 2011, I think they're 18-3 against the spread against Chicago. I don't have it in front of me. But Buffalo, again, we're going to be big Titan fans. The odds makers, not Doc Sports, but odds maker wise, where they're going to be huge Tennessee Titans. Everyone's going to be Ryan Tannehill fans. on Monday night. And why? Can someone has not answered me this question? Why is there 2 Monday night football games in almost the same time? Can someone answer me that question?
It's
Give me
unbelievable.
2-hour difference. Give me 2-hour difference.
It makes absolutely no sense. But since you brought it up, let's go ahead and segue into that second Monday night football game, shall we? Minnesota at Philadelphia. Again, two teams coming off impressive week 1 wins. Raphael, this line opened with Philadelphia as a 3-point favorite. Quickly bet down to Philadelphia -1.5. It's kind of stabilized around 2. What are you looking at with these two teams?
I like the home team in this one. I know Minnesota won at home against their division rivals, Green Bay. But I've been telling people, what did Green Bay do last year when they had to travel to Jacksonville to play the Saints on the Saints home game because of Hurricane Ida, and they got waxed? The Green Bay's week 1 is their preseason week 4. So I'm not going to put that much into Minnesota's big W against Aaron Rodgers and his rookie wide receivers. I'm not going to put that much on there. This is a road trip. Going to Philly is not a tough place. They threw snowballs at Santa Claus. So it's not a cakewalk to go in there and steal a road victory. I like the Eagles. I like their defense. Everyone keeps on talking about their offense and Hurts maturing and their running attack and stuff like that. I'm more impressed on their defense, especially that secondary. That secondary is quick, can hit, can cause some turnovers. That's why I like the Eagles, not because of Hurts and that running game. I like the Eagles because of that defense.
And it's Kirk Cousins in prime time.
Well, I didn't want to say that, but yeah.
17 against the spread, something like that. And prime time games, it's kind of been his bugaboo his entire career. I kind of agree with you on Philadelphia. This one isn't that I don't like Minnesota. I like the vibe that they have going on. I think that they are going to be a real challenge to Green Bay for supremacy in that division. I think that this Vikings team is very talented, and they just have a breath of fresh air with the new coaching staff. But I like Philadelphia, man. I think people have been sleeping on the Eagles. Heard a little bit of buzz about them in the summer, but I don't think enough. This team is tough. You touched on it. Defensively, they got a top 10 defense. And if you look at them in the trenches, you know, they have a top 5 offensive line. They got a top 10 defensive line, even after losing Derek Barnett. These guys are tough in the trenches. They're a big, physical football team that has a lot of experience, a lot of skill position talent now. I think they're going to be relentless, and playing at home in front of that home crowd is going to give them that little extra boost. You know, took a bad beat with the Eagles. I'm sure a lot of people did last week with them not winning and not covering the spread in Detroit. Detroit, for the second year in a row, did the exact same thing. They got blown out and then made a furious comeback in the fourth quarter to sneak in the back door. But, you know, that game was never close. That game was not close. Philadelphia took over early. They had like a 17-point lead in the second half of that game. So a little bit of a misleading final. I thought they were more impressive in their win over Detroit than Minnesota was in its win over Green Bay. So, all right, those are our games. Good luck to everyone this weekend. But before we get out of here, Raphael, you got a free play for the people? Give the people a little something.
I'm playing this play just because I got the Steelers to win a division, to over under. I got the Steelers over 7.5 wins. They beat up on New England. I know Watt is out, but that defense is still going to be good. That defense is well coached, and I just like the way their offense is going to roll. If this is a shootout, which is the total's 40.5, we're not going to see a big shootout. But if Pittsburgh can put some points on the board quickly, Jones's back is all messed up for New England. Give me Pittsburgh plus the 2.5.
I had to stay away from that game because I think it's so strange that Pittsburgh is a home underdog. You know, we talked about last week that they're the best underdog bet in the NFL, hitting 70% over the last 10 years as an underdog. It's so odd that they're a home underdog. I was just like, I gotta stay away. Somebody knows something somewhere, right? All right, my free play is not one individual free play. It's actually a bunch of them. Take the over. Okay, that's my free play for this weekend in the NFL. Any game that featured a team that scored less than 20 points last week, take the over this week. Historically, over the last 5 years, teams outside of the Jets, interestingly enough, the Jets managed to score under 20 points in week 1, and then they do it again in week 2. Every other normal team in the NFL increases their point total by an average of 14 points between week 1 and week 2. So if you scored fewer than 20 points in week 1, you were probably going to score 2 extra touchdowns on top of what you scored last week this week. The total went 5-11 for the under last week. Only 5 games went over the total last week. I think a lot of the adjustments we see this week are going to be tweaks on the offensive side of the ball. Maybe some of that was the shortened preseason spill into the regular season. I don't know. But there's going to be more scoring this week. Bet the over on any team that scored fewer than 20 points last week. He's Raphael Esparza. I'm Robert Ferringo. We will see you again next week. Carpe diem, and good luck.